Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr., and welcome to another classic movie review. I want to apologize for not uploading anything in the last couple of weeks. I've been kind of busy. I've had a sick baby and a lot of stuff going on with my job, and so it's been kind of difficult to find the time to record something. And finally got a little time right now to talk about a movie that I want to get into that came out in 1986 from director John Badham, the director of Saturday Night Fever, Dracula from 1979, starring the great Frank Langella. He also directed War Games, I believe Stakeout, and a pretty underrated Johnny Depp thriller from 1995, in my opinion, Nick of Time. And he's one of the great directors of the 70s and 80s. So, Short Circuit is one of those movies that a lot of people grew up with back in the 80s that was pretty popular. The robot thing was really taking off, and more and more robots were popping up in 80s. Even Rocky had a friggin' robot in Rocky 4. So this movie stars Steve Guttenberg, who was becoming a pretty big leading man at the time, mostly in comedic roles. He was in the 1981 movie Diner. He was, of course, in the Police Academy movies as Mahoney. He was also in Ron Howard's Cocoon just a year before this, and would also appear in the sequel for that, and Three Men and a Baby, and the sequel for that, and lots of other stuff. And here he plays Newton Crosby. You also have the role of Stephanie Speck, played by Ali Sheedy, who was coming off of The Breakfast Club. She was in John Badham's War Games, and would go on to be in movies like Only the Lonely and High Art. And the movie also has the character of Ben. Please don't ask me to pronounce his last name, uh, played by Caucasian actor Fisher Stevens in Brownface. By now, actor Fisher Stevens, who played the Ben character in Short Circuit and its sequel, Short Circuit 2 from 1988, has stated that he has his regrets about playing the part since he was not a real Indian person, and he put on this completely phony accent that really gives off the vibe that they're making fun of this character, though the filmmakers have stated that that wasn't their intention. But when you watch the film, you see that this character is mainly there for comedic effect. Supposedly, the director thought that the mismatch of cultures interacting would be kind of fun, and sometimes it is a little bit, but some of the stuff that's in there with the Ben character hasn't aged very well. When the movie begins, we have this company called Nova that has built all these robots, and they're basically made to be kind of a deterrent. They're built by this company that's contracted by the US government to make them as weapons, basically, and they got these lasers on the back. The design for the robots is very familiar, I think, for anyone that has ever seen Wall-E. I'm not saying that Pixar's Wall-E ripped off the design for their robot from this movie, but it's definitely inspired a bit by the robots in Short Circuit. At the very beginning of the film, they show off several of these robots, and we see demonstrations of what they're capable of doing, and like the laser stuff that shoots out and blows stuff up and all that, part of their defense systems. The official name for the robots is Strategic Artificially Intelligent Nuclear Transport, or SAINT. Basically, there is some kind of a freak accident that turns one of them on in a way that it becomes kind of aware of itself, so it basically thinks that it's alive. And it's the number 5 robot, so yeah, it becomes just known as number 5. Somehow number 5 makes his way off of this government facility. The way that happens, I'll get into that in a second. And then he is out into the world and becomes kind of a fish out of water story with robot number 5 kind of learning, kind of taking an input, and that's basically him kind of learning our culture and our ways. And so he ends up meeting the Ali Sheedy character, Stephanie. Because number 5 is still basically a government weapon who is equipped with some very dangerous tech, the US government considers him kind of a threat and a liability, so they have to go out and find him and bring him back, and they start to track him down. And that's where the character of Schroeder, played by G.W. Bailey, comes in, who is mainly played for laughs as an incompetent villain who is going to be very recognizable to Police Academy fans because he played Captain Harris, of course, in those films. And since I'm a big fan of those movies, I love Police Academy and the sequels, it's kind of hard for me to watch this movie and not think of G.W. Bailey as Captain Harris. I do have fond memories of watching this in the 80s as a little kid back in the day with my cousins on cable or on VHS because it was one of those movies that was always on, like The Goonies or Flight of the Navigator or E.T. You know, some movies always played on cable all the time, and you would just always constantly, tune in for some of these movies. But Short Circuit was one of those movies that I wasn't into it like everybody else. For some reason, I gravitated more towards the sequel that came out in '88 more than the original. So, the reason why he comes alive in the first place, very poorly underwritten. It's very kind of out of nowhere. It's basically a bolt of lightning, and there isn't even a storm happening in this scene. It's just lightning strikes completely randomly out of nowhere, and it hits the number five robot, bringing it to life. And so that sets the story in motion. But you can tell they had no idea how to begin this story because the lightning comes completely out of nowhere, and they could have come up with all kinds of different scenarios, but instead they chose a very easy out. After number five is wandering around after coming to life, some little gizmo or a gadget basically pushes him very conveniently onto a truck for the truck to leave the government facility, and that's how he basically goes on his way to finding the character of Stephanie. It's just kind of dumb the way it happens, and when he does meet Stephanie, her reaction is very unrealistic. From the very beginning, she's like happy and excited because she thinks he's an alien. She discovers him in her little food shack truck. And of course, her mind goes to Alien, and the way that scene is lit with like this smoke in the background and like kind of this weird light behind the smoke. It's very Spielbergian. And even though I don't really like the way they wrote the Ali Sheedy character when she meets number five for the first time, I do think that Ali Sheedy gives the best performance in the film. I think that she does a good job with the character of Stephanie throughout the film as she's trying to manage her situation with number five, and I think that improves throughout the movie in some scenes. And then there are some scenes that kind of hold it back because there is a lot of slapstick. The movie is basically relying on a lot of sight gags, whether it's number five falling off a truck or number five falling off of a bridge or falling off of the porch balcony of Stephanie's house, or whether he's driving Stephanie's food truck van. Yeah, the movie is just way too reliant on all kinds of like cutesy sight gags. The movie also falls flat for me in the humor department, especially with the casting of Steve Guttenberg, who I normally really like in movies, but not in this movie. As the character of Newton Crosby, I don't really think he has a lot to do. They give him some moments of dialogue where he's supposed to be funny, but those moments of attempted humor don't really land for me because the writing isn't all that good. And when Steve Guttenberg does try to be funny, it doesn't come off as funny to me. I do like him in Police Academy. I think he's very good in Cocoon and the Three Men and a Baby movies, but here, not so much. Human characters aside, the character of number five, the robot, is what people really want to see when they come to watch Short Circuit. And what's number five like in terms of a character? Sometimes a little fun, but sometimes a little annoying. That's just my overall outlook. I think the effects with the robot are pretty cool. Considering it's 1986, they did a very good job and they still hold up very well. I understand that this is a family adventure film, and so my criticisms of the lack of realism when it comes to certain characters' reactions in the movie towards certain things, I know it can be considered nitpicky, but if a lot of the humor landed in the film for me a lot better, then a lot of those things wouldn't be nitpicks, because things that are nitpicks aren't really all that felt if you're enjoying the movie. And when it comes to a lot of the humor that didn't land for me, a lot of that nitpicky stuff just kind of stuck out a little more. And so, yeah, this is a 2-star movie for me. Don't take my word for it. If you haven't seen it, and if you like robots, and if you're into 80s comedies, then maybe this will be a movie that you will be taken with, since, a lot of people do find it charming, and it is a pretty popular movie from that era. So yeah, if you're interested, and if you like that kind of thing, check it out. Short Circuit. Short Circuit is a movie that you can find on streaming. I know because I've come across it on different streaming services myself. But when I want to watch a movie, I usually pop in my physical media, which is, kind of going the way of the dodo, but I still got some DVDs left. Here is my copy of Short Circuit on DVD, and there is the character of number five there with his finger in the air getting hit by lightning. Not exactly the same visual that we see in the movie, but that's pretty much the gist of it there. But yeah, 1986's Short Circuit. Definitely check it out if you are into family adventure robots and stuff like that. So yeah, it's gonna do it for this classic movie review. Thank you very much for watching. I always appreciate it. If you're into movies, if you're into this kind of thing, hit the bell, become a subscriber. Please don't forget to comment, share, like. It always helps out the channel. Those of you that are returning viewers, thank you very much for the support. I always appreciate it. And please don't forget to look out for the next classic movie review. Till next time, everybody, peace out, take care, God bless. Bye.